Hey, it's Allison coming to you live from Amelia Island, Florida on this gorgeous Monday morning. At least it's gorgeous where I am, and I hope that wherever you are, if the weather is not so gorgeous, that you're able to find the sunshine somewhere today. So I am so excited to have my guests on today. I'm going to be bringing them on in just a moment, but I wanted to do a quick introduction. And if you're jumping on live, please give StreamYard permission to show your comment. I'm going to be checking on my Facebook page on my phone too, just to make sure I don't want to miss any questions. And so if you're catching us live and you have questions, please put them down. If you're really not comfortable putting your question down, please know that I honor that and I understand that. And you can always reach out to me privately and I will get your question answered. So I want to first introduce my guests. Number one, Cheryl Munroe. She is a dear friend and business partner of mine. We have been growing our friendship and our business partnership for almost 4 years now. And she is a gift in my life for sure. She is a fellow Canadian Cape Bretoner. We grew up in the same city. And although we didn't know one another, she's just a few years younger than I am. She's a good friend of my brother's. And that's kind of how we connected. But we do come from the same place, and she now lives in Toronto. She is a corporate recruiter. She is an entrepreneur, and she is also a mom of one. And we are going to talk to her shortly about being a mom and what she's going through right now. My second guest is Erin Joyce Miller, and she is an entrepreneur. She is an author of Motherhood Stripped, and we'll have her talk about that in a moment. She is a podcast host. She has a podcast called Same Boat Huddle, and I'm just going to read her description here because I love it. And just a short clip. It's a place where real women come to have real talk about the overwhelm, anxiety, lack of self-care, and loss of individual identity. And I think a lot of moms can relate to that. So it's Same Boat Huddle, and she is also a mentor to moms, and she has a coaching program where she helps moms come to grips and come to terms with anxiety and overwhelm and teaches them how to cope with that and how to have strategies to move past that. And I'm excited for her to share a little more with us about that today. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my guests. Erin.
Hi.
And Cheryl. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, Cheryl, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
And I just want you to just give our viewers just kind of a little synopsis about where you are. I know you're early on in Erin's program.
Yep.
And I want you to just tell us what you're going through and what led you to Erin.
Okay. So it's funny when I think back to my journey and my story, I'm like, how far back did it really go as it relates to anxiety? And I think we probably don't know. And maybe I had it. I've often wondered, should I ask my high school girlfriends if I had it back in high school? And then there's a part of me where I'm like, I don't know if I want to know the answer or if it will serve me. There's another part of me too that I kind of prided myself on good mental health, if that makes sense. I never, ever judge anyone who's going through depression or anxiety. I actually have a lot of empathy for people that have, because I've lived through it through close friends, a former partner. But there was always a part of me where I was like, it was kind of like a badge of honor that I carried around, that I could handle all this stuff and I did it well. And I didn't do it without any anxiety or depression, maybe normal bouts of it.
Right.
And when I became a mom 8 years ago, I noticed in that first year of his life, I had what I would call, and no disrespect, but crazy anxiety. But I just chalk that up to, well, he is my first. He's also my last, but he is my first. And everything I was paranoid about, I literally remember being worried about, should I give him a soother? If I give him a soother, will he stop breastfeeding? And I text all my girlfriends questions like that. Mm-hmm. And every decision I was making was almost like a catastrophic decision. And I really did. I brushed it off as just, this is the first mom kind of stuff. I'm hormonal right now. And this is totally normal. And I actually think it probably is to some extent.
Yes, 100%.
But what I noticed was year over year, I started to get more anxious. So my anxiety, I don't think I have social anxiety or anything like that. What I've noticed is my anxiety is really related to him and being a mother. And I grew up, like you said, in a smaller town. So the town we grew up in was like 20,000 people. I live in Toronto now, which I think is about 2.5 million, 3 million people, might even be higher than that now. And as parts of my anxiety are related to that, like having a kid in a big city with big city stresses and worries. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with his freedom. Yeah. And as each year went on, like I said, I felt like it kind of was getting a little bit unhealthier, and COVID hits, and it definitely got heightened. And I didn't realize it was at the time, but I had my first panic attack this summer. It was in June. I'm happy to go into detail, but that's another story for sure. And I just said to my husband, I'm like, I don't want to live like this. This is a horrible way to live. And I said, more importantly, I don't want to project any of this on my son. Like, I don't want him growing up anxious if I can help it. I don't want him feeling like he can't do anything because I'm overprotective or a helicopter mom. And so I said, it's important to me. Like, I got dead serious and I started to open my mind to the idea of a coach. I interviewed 5 to 6 naturopathic doctors. So I just started to explore that literally, I would say in September. Like I got really serious about it. And as I'm a big believer in the universe and the inner workings of something bigger than all of us coming together to help us along, I follow a podcast. It's called Jen Pike's Simplicity Project. And Jen is an amazing resource for women and hormones. I've been following her podcast for a few years. She interviewed Erin. And the title of the podcast, I can't even remember it, but I think the title had something to do with motherhood and anxiety. So yeah. I don't even listen to all of Jen's podcasts, to be honest, but I was like, okay, this is for me. And I listened to Erin being interviewed by Jen, and I was like, I literally felt like I just got goosebumps. Like every single word Erin said was like me. I just felt like her journey was my journey. I felt like what she talked about and what she needed to heal and how she works with moms. I was just like, oh my God. So I went to her website. I looked at the different programs she offered, and we had what I guess would be called an intake call. And we chatted for 30 minutes. And I just, after that conversation, I was like, I need to figure out a way to work with her. And the last thing I'll say about that is the thing I love most about Erin's, what she was offering was she just felt so human to me. Like she literally talked about, I feel like Erin is like who I'm going to be in 5 years.
You are. Less than that.
And I feel like who Erin was 5 years ago is who I am right now.
Right.
And I channel that. And there was a part of me too, I told this to Erin, that there's so much of what she does for a living, and there's so much of how she shows up that it's exactly what I've been dreaming of and envisioned, but I haven't been taking action on it. Yeah. And I just said, I almost didn't work with her for that reason. Like there was almost some resistance there that I was like, oh, I don't want to work with someone that basically is doing all the things I want. And then it was a conversation with myself to say, Cheryl, if she has everything you want, maybe you should work with her.
You need to be working with.
Yeah, exactly.
Erin, I didn't tell you that I'm a mom. I am a mom, a biological mom to one. So I have one biological son who is now 25 years old. And I have 2 stepkids that are 34 and 32. And they were 15 and 13 when I met their dad. So I was a single mom for a number of years. And so I do understand the anxiety, from day one, and probably even being pregnant. And one of my most vivid memories is after giving birth to Evan in the hospital, having these visions of dropping him. I was terrified that I was going to drop him. So I remember some anxiety around that. But another thing that I'll share is that I remember when he was about 8 years old and he went on his first sleepover. And I started.
I'm right at that age.
Like, what if their house, like, what if there's a house fire and they forget that Evan's there? And what if he hides? I mean, I started like just ruminating and going through all of those things. So yeah, I totally understand. I've definitely been there. And, I'd like to tell you ladies that it goes away, but the older they get, obviously the less control that you have over what they're doing. And so you really do have to learn coping mechanisms so that you can let them go and let them be free and let them live their lives.
Yeah.
So Erin, I'm excited. Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah. No worries.
And Erin, I'm excited to hear your story. So how did this
well, like Cheryl said, it's a very similar story. And that's why I feel so passionate about sharing it, because there are women who have very profound stories of losing children or suffering from cancer, or these big, awful life events that happened that open their eyes to live differently.
Yeah.
I don't have that. It's a very typical, I had babies and I felt like my stuff hit the fan and I couldn't grasp any control over my life anymore. And I think a lot of mothers experience that. And that's why I want to share it, because I think this is the norm. But I felt very isolated and alone in my experience. You feel like something's wrong with you. You feel like you're crazy, and you're afraid to really say those things out loud, because what you see on the outside is highlight reels. Even before the day of social media, no one wants to air their dirty laundry, of course, but we need to have real conversation about what to expect in motherhood and have it respectfully, so it doesn't feel scary for new moms. But more of just like I joke in my book about people told me about what undergarments to wear in my wedding dress, but no one told me overnight you go from planning your wedding every day for a year, and then overnight that planning is gone and you have this void in your life and it feels guilty because you're supposed to feel really happy because you just got married. Like, no one wants to talk about that, but those are feelings that come up.
Yeah.
Or people want to tell you what, like how to latch your baby to your nipple, but no one's going to say you might be scared that you're going to drop your baby.
Yeah.
And you might have these horrifying thoughts, or whatever, all of those different things, because you don't want to be scare anyone.
Yeah. Or you don't feel attached to your baby. Some people, like, they might not feel attached to their child, and they're not going to say that because they're horrified that they might be feeling that way.
Right. Exactly. So, and that's typically my story. I actually wasn't very anxious with my first daughter, or I should say with my daughter. She was my first baby. My second baby is a boy. And, I enjoyed motherhood. I really went into it feeling really good. My delivery with her was awful. That's all written out in my book, but I really was able to recover and enjoy it. And I had my son 18 months later.
Oh, wow.
And we moved. I just was taking on too much. I started a photography business. We moved. I had my son 5 days later. My daughter was 18 months old. And it's that, just like Cheryl, what you were saying, we create this pride in women who can do it all, that you are a superwoman. And instead of someone saying to women who take on this much, instead of saying, like, I think you need to stop, like, why don't you do less? Or at least just not applauding it.
Yeah.
But instead, people are like, wow, good for you, leaving the house 2 weeks after having your baby. No one applauds the mom who stays home and rests and asks for help to get the groceries delivered instead. We're only applauded for doing.
Yeah, let me jump in there. I'm listening to a book on Audible. Now, I'm a real book person. I like a real book, but I just listened to a podcast by Chalene Johnson talking about how to read more books. And one of them was like, listen to audibles when you're just doing things around the house that are mindless, So I've listened to one. The author's name is Amy Moran. She wrote a book called 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. But she also wrote a book called 13 Things Mentally Strong Women Don't Do. So I'm reading that one on Audible, and I'll probably buy the other one paper copy. But one of the things that she said as I was listening today was that there was a woman who was a vice president with a really like high-end financial company, like big financial company in the United States. She delivered her baby on a Friday, and she went back to work on the Monday because she didn't want to appear weak. I'm thinking, girl, no, if I was there, I would be like, girl, you pack your bag and you get back home. You go to your baby. But she felt like she would appear weak if she didn't come back to work. So I think
we have to redefine what strength is, especially for women, because we're trying to define our strength in a masculine energy way. So that's not necessarily as a man per se, because men and women both hold masculine and feminine energy.
Sure.
But our society and our culture views masculine energy as strong and feminine energy as weak. So nurturing ourselves is viewed as weak.
Yeah.
And if you look at any other creature giving birth to something, they do nothing after they have babies.
Right.
Look at the dogs. They lay in the weeping, whatever it's called, the box and nurse their babies.
They don't do anything. The owners bring them food and they just do their job as a mom.
Exactly. Yeah. And we are just not taught that. So I was that typical story of, I was photographing up until I had my son. I was photographing right after I had him. My back was almost broken. I still got up and kept moving. And I refused to listen to my intuition and my body and literally pushed my body to a breaking point. Yeah. And not just my physical body, all of me. And I ended up in urgent care with a panic attack, which I felt comical because I have a master's degree in school counseling psychology. And I'm trained to understand how to support people with anxiety. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that this is.
Recognize it in yourself. How did it manifest in you, Erin?
For me, it's very physical. And I think that that's also a disservice. And that's why I like to talk about anxiety, because so many people view anxiety as a mood or an emotion that you can turn on and off.
Yeah.
And anxiety is a response from our brain that changes our whole system inside of our body, and it turns our fight or flight on. And so all of the systems that aren't needed turn off, and all of the systems that are needed to survive turn on. So that's a higher heart rate, that's shutting down your digestion. So you're probably going to have belly issues. You're sweating, your hands get cold, like all of those things, the adrenaline that happens. So it's a very physical response. And I think that that's why I didn't recognize it, because I always viewed anxiety as something that you chose, or just a mood, an emotion.
Yeah.
So for me, it manifests as very nauseous.
Yeah.
In this particular day, I lost feeling in my hands and my face.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, well, this isn't good. Something's wrong. Yeah. And it's just a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
And you actually when I went to the doctor, my white blood cell count was actually high. And they said that can happen with anxiety. So it truly is a physical response from your body.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question that's popping into my mind as you're saying, like, you took on so much as a new mom and moved and started a new business. How much did social media play a part for you? Obviously, I'm assuming that you were looking at social media and seeing other moms out there, like you said, the highlight reel, looking like they had it all together. They could do 1,000,001 things and still look perfect, hair done, makeup done, cute little outfit, one kid holding the other one. Did that have an impact on you? Maybe you didn't realize it at the time, but
possibly. Yeah, I think I was that person to a lot of people. So I think I actually impacted a lot of people in that way, because I always looked put together. My house was put together if I knew you were coming over. All of those things. I would say there's definitely a factor in that, but I know for myself that a lot of it truly came from me and my upbringing, and it's not specific to my internal family, but our society.
Sure.
That, as I had a mom who was single as well with 3 kids, and she was remarried, but still took on, these are my children, I'm responsible for them. Yeah. And the ownership, the dynamic, that could be a whole rabbit hole of a conversation. Yeah. But we see that I was raised with a generation of women who they were the ones going to work now, where my mom was raised by a generation where mom stays home and does the house stuff. So this is what we're creating in our culture of moms taking on work and doing work, but not any shifting happening in all of the other.
Right. We're losing you a little bit, but hopefully you'll come back to us. Cheryl, I'm assuming that this stuff is
really I saw. Okay.
Yeah, you're coming back. There you are. I'm assuming that a lot of this resonates with you. Okay. And knowing who you are, Cheryl.
Totally.
Yeah.
And there was something, as you guys were having a conversation, where I had my own aha moment that I haven't yet had, which is, so for those that don't know my story, which is probably a lot of you, I was married at 37, and it was my first marriage, and I had Will at 38.
Yeah.
So I was not a quote unquote young mom.
No.
And so for me, what's happening with me right now, and what's kind of led up to this point, is I had the opposite experience, where there was a lot of people like going, doing. Mm-hmm. Like I know a lot of moms like that. Mm-hmm. But for me, because of my age, I made a conscious effort to almost take a step back in the career I built for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And when I say step back, what I decided to do was go freelance. Mm-hmm. And I had more control over my hours, mm-hmm. and I minimized my hours so I could not feel rushed in the mornings. Yeah. So I could walk Will to school and hold hands, which is already starting to not happen anymore, but he at least walks with me. Yeah. But really be present versus rushed and on a meeting call and all of that stuff. Right. And so what I'm finding now that he's 8 and he's more independent and going to be more and more independent as every year goes by, mm-hmm. I'm at a place where I'm now 46, and now I'm like, oh shit, like I stopped the quote unquote momentum consciously, of that career. But as a result of that, I've been taking the time to explore things that are really important to me, like you and I being in the same business together and experiencing what it's like to run a version of your own business. Mm-hmm. And I've just started a career path in recruitment, which I'm super excited about. But it's almost like I'm living through almost like a phase 2 of my life too now. Yeah, sure. But with that comes some anxiety, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of overthinking, a lot of, am I doing this right? Right. So that, along with motherhood, it's still part of motherhood, because that's what was the trigger for choosing it, is part of that. So for me, it was almost a different experience than Erin's in that way, where I wasn't doing go. I was pulling back. But now
because you had been in the go for so long.
And I knew that, like,
mom gave you an excuse to pull back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Erin, would like you, I'm hoping that your internet will hang in there with us. Yeah. I would love for you to talk briefly about your book, and then I want to hear about the program and how you help moms.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I clear through my internet? Can you hear me now?
You're a little fuzzy, but we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So my book is called Motherhood Stripped, and it is, it's a 2-part book. And the first part is sharing all the details of my story, from truly when I met my husband all the way down to when I ended up in urgent care, and how progressive that can happen. And I share that story not so much to be about me, but so that the reader can really relate to it and understand that, oh, this, I relate to this. This is what happened to me, so that the reader feels seen, feels heard, feels validated. Mm-hmm. And in the second part, I go through what's called the layered growth method. And there are 4 layers in this. And it's a method that really came to me as I was writing the book, that is a way to organize all of the tools I've gathered over the years to heal and manage my own anxiety, and have it presented in a way that feels manageable and makes sense and doesn't feel overwhelming, because that's the last thing we need when we're overwhelmed. Exactly. Is to be more overwhelmed in our healing journey. So the whole book, my hope is that women will close it feeling empowered, feeling understood, feeling not alone, and having the steps they need to take to begin to change things in their life, to feel less anxiety and overwhelm.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about the Layered Growth Coaching
Academy. Yeah. So
Cheryl is a part of.
Exactly. So the Layered Growth Academy is, it is a 16-week program that walks you through each of the 4 layers with, there's video content, PDF content each week. And then one-on-one coaching. We have calls every other week. And then we have 24/7 support through Voxer. And I keep a small group of women because of how much I want to support the women one-on-one. I think it's really important, because anybody can consume content, right? You can read the book. You can even join the program and watch the videos and read the PDFs. But the integration of the work and really going through real life, because so much life happens in between phone calls, right? In between the coaching calls. And just to be sure I can really support the women through their literal processing of the integration of the information. So
yeah, that sounds amazing. Really,
thank
really
you.
amazing. And how long have you been doing this work? The layered growth?
So this Layered Growth Academy is the first run of it, but it's since writing the book, I was able to reorganize all of these tools. So I used to have a program called Create Your Best Life, which was that was a 12-week program. So it's basically a reorganization that feels so comprehensive and so good. I knew it was there since I created Create Your Best Life. I'm like, this isn't quite it. And writing the book, it was the light bulb.
Metamorphosis that happened after writing.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for 2.5 years.
Okay.
And I was a counselor before having my photography business. So I've been in counseling for, probably 10 years now.
Right. And are you seeing a lot of the same themes with moms that you work with? Yeah.
Exactly the same.
So we're not in this alone.
Not a single person.
Like you said, a lot of women feel isolated and feel alone, and they're embarrassed or they're ashamed to share how they're feeling. And what I want moms watching here today is to know that you're not alone
at all.
Other women that know exactly how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add one thing to that? To Erin's point, so the other thing is she has a Facebook group for the 5 of us women that are currently in the program. And on the first day, we all introduced ourselves and kind of posted pictures of who we were in our life. And every single one of those women's stories, if it was a paragraph long, there was maybe one sentence that each one of them said that I just felt so connected to them as a woman, to them as a mother, probably more importantly to them as a woman first.
Yeah.
And to your point, Allison, just feeling like we're way more the same than we're different. And I think, certainly not to throw the COVID and the pandemic under the bus, but I think isolation has caused us to truly feel isolated in our feelings.
Sure.
And so that to me was just the beginning of the program, which felt so awesome. I'm not talking with those women all the time, but we'll kind of jump in the group whenever we feel we want to or we're pulled to, which is awesome. But it's just so good to know that it's not you. And even as you said all those stories about Evan and worried about dropping him, I never knew that. I don't think you've ever shared that with me. And even as you were saying it, I was like, I even felt relief, because if I shared half of the stuff that goes through my head, I feel like people would think I was literally crazy.
I can tell you 1,000 stories of crazy thinking, catastrophic thinking as a mom. For sure.
And a big one for me is when my husband and my son go on bike rides together. They do that a lot together. And I always worry. The second they leave, I get a pit in my stomach. For me, when Erin was saying, my body awareness is in my stomach. I feel all my stress ever since I was a kid in my stomach. It manifests in my digestion. And they go, and he said to me one day, he goes, "What are you worried about? The worst case that's going to happen is he's going to break a bone, and we're just going to go to the hospital and it will heal and it will get fixed." And I'm like, no, that's actually not the worst case. The worst case scenario is you're going to turn your head. He's going to take a wrong turn. He's going to lose his surroundings. He's going to get lost in Toronto. He doesn't know how to blah, 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 blah. But I always have a worst case scenario.
Yes. Well, listen, like I said, my son is 25. Currently, he's living at home with us. And there are times when I know that he's out, that if I wake up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom, I will check to see if his car is home. And I have to tell you that when I see that his car is in the driveway, I just breathe a sigh of relief, and I can go back to bed and I can go back to sleep peacefully. If his car is not home, then I'm wondering, where is he? Why is he out so late? And he's 25. He's a grown man.
Yeah. And I
I'm
need to do this too, by the way. I can't stress, if anyone is resonating with this, it is so important for me and for my own sanity to get a hold of this before he is 13 and 15 and 20. I
wanted to ask you that, Cheryl. What are you hoping to accomplish working with Erin? I want to ask you that. What's your hope?
My hope and my goal is that and so first and foremost is I don't expect Erin's going to guide me.
Yeah.
Having been to coaching programs before, I'm going to have to do the work. Like she's only going to do so much, respectfully.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the biggest thing I'm craving is just like peace of mind, like, and that there is only so much I can do, and learning to trust him.
Yeah.
Which is part of motherhood in and of itself, is teaching him the tools.
Yep.
And maybe that's where my anxiety comes from, is that I haven't taught him enough. And then I feel like there's a gap. But my ultimate goal is that when he goes on a bike ride, or then when he eventually goes out with his teenage friends, or when he drives a car, has a cell phone, like I can already take you there because I can picture it, like that I'm not at home, not functioning in a healthy way. Meaning, like, I don't want to picture myself at home spending the whole 2 hours he's gone thinking and obsessing.
Agonizing about it.
Yeah. And if I didn't take the steps that I've taken this year, like with Erin, with my naturopath, I can tell you, I feel like that's where it would have gone. Is it would have gone down that road for me. It wouldn't have looked good, and it wouldn't have looked healthy. So I'm super grateful. Like, I do think it's amazing how the world works, that, I listen to Jen, and Jen, for years I've been listening to Jen, and all of a sudden right now, like, she interviews Erin.
Yeah. There's no coincidence.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Meant to be.
Totally.
Good. Well, I'm loving this conversation, but we should wrap it up. Let you guys get back to your lives. And I just want to end, Erin. Like I said, I'm going to put all of Erin's information in the chat box so you can get connected with her in any way that you need to. But I would like you to leave us, if you don't mind, with one little tip that moms that are resonating with this and feel the anxiety, one little tip that they might be able to do today to start feeling better.
Take care of your basic needs. It's the first thing that moms let go of. Yeah. And we need to drink our water, eat our food, get as much sleep as you can. Mm-hmm. I know for some of us that looks different.
Yeah.
It's the first thing we let go of. And that when we're not meeting our basic needs, we are still animals. We have a primitive brain, and it's going to go into fight or flight if our basic needs aren't met. It's one of the best things you can do.
I love that. So let go of the chores for an hour or so, ladies.
So you can eat your lunch and drink your water and
move in a healthy way if you can.
Walk, get outside.
Walk, get some fresh air. I love that tip, Erin. I really do. Yeah. So I'm so grateful for both of you to take the time today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
And I really look forward to having you both back in a few months. How long is the program?
It's 16 weeks, but it'll be a little longer because we have break weeks for holidays. So into the end of February, early March, we'll be done.
I'm looking forward to bringing you back on around that time, and we can chat again then.
That sounds good.
All right. Ladies, you hang out here. I'm just going to end the live, but we can chat. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. And remember, like I said earlier, if there is a question or something that you're going through that you don't feel comfortable putting on publicly, please reach out to me privately, and I will get you connected to Erin, or I'm certainly willing to listen and be an ear for you. All right, until next time, I hope that wherever you are today, you're feeling happy, healthy, and well. God bless.